And we're going.
Is it working?
Yep.
Are people there?
There we go.
Are you there, people?
They say they can see us.
Can you see us, people? Sorry, I was late. It was me. But they didn't get ready without me because they didn't know I wasn't bringing my laptop to make it work. So we should sing. We should sing.
Let's sing.
Okay.
Can we sing Kumbaya? Maybe that will make me feel better.
We need to. Hey, it's a live stream. What do you know? Hey, it's a live stream. Hopefully with video. Hey, it's a live stream. So lend a browser. The Phil Vischer live stream is for all you carousers. We'll talk to Sky.
Hi, Phil.
And Chris, I can't. It's too late at night to even play the song. Christian too.
Hi, Phil.
Hi. And we've got Jason Rugg here with the questions from you.
Hi, Phil.
Hey, it's a live stream. So lend it here. The Phil Vischer live stream starts right here. The Phil Vischer live stream starts right here. All right. Where are y'all from? Come on, type in where you're all from. We need to know. Jason, tell us where they're from.
Ohio, CNY, Canada.
Canada. Can we
North
move
Carolina, Washington, Redmond, Washington, San Antonio, Philly, West Palm Beach, North Carolina,
Wow.
Hobbiton, Illinois, Seattle,
Hobbiton?
Santa Clarita, California, Alberta, Canada, Pottstown, Pennsylvania. You made fun of that one last time. Vancouver, Canada.
I would never.
Omaha.
I would never make
Omaha.
fun of that.
JT
Never.
visited Miami U once.
That's my alma mater.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice smattering of the United States.
That is a pleasant smattering. And Canada.
And Canada.
Was there anyone from Australia? Or the time?
They're
I don't
sleeping.
think so this
The
time.
time thing doesn't work out very well.
Mhm.
And probably not the UK either. That'd be the middle of the
It'll be about 2 a.m. over there.
middle of the night.
Which we actually had
Okay.
some questions written in early from one of our
Oh yeah,
fans
yeah,
from
yeah.
over
Who
there,
couldn't
so.
be there? Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, anything big happen in the last 24 hours?
I've been comatose, so I don't know. I couldn't get out of bed, and I've been crying. So, is the world still happening?
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it.
I don't feel
Sky
fine.
feels fine.
Maybe just the end of Western civilization as we know it.
That is for sure. We haven't said that in a really long
Yeah.
time.
Okay, Sky, were you surprised?
Yeah,
You were surprised too?
of course. I mean, I think the entire world is surprised. And
Yeah.
even for those who were really rooting for Trump or wanted him to win, I
They're
think
surprised too.
I think the Trump people, from what I heard, were really
Yeah.
surprised. The pollsters pretty much everywhere got everything wrong. So yeah, we are all very
Got
surprised.
Everything wrong.
My prediction was exactly the opposite. If you'll remember, I predicted that Trump would win the popular election and Hillary would win the electoral college, and I got that totally wrong.
Yeah, Michigan and Wisconsin.
Let us down.
Pennsylvania. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? I feel like I need to drive north to Wisconsin and have a stern talk.
I liked your blog post today.
Did you see that?
I
did.
saw that too.
It resonated with me. It got a lot of
Mhm.
feedback on the.
And I'm sure not everyone's so happy.
Mm-mm. No, so I blogged. I was thinking about it this morning, and it's just the irony that we've gone from our first African-American president to a president that has the full-throated and hearty endorsement of the Ku Klux Klan.
You think there's a correlation there?
That's a good topic of conversation.
Mhm.
Is there a correlation there? And the point that I tried to make, and I don't know, I may have not made it well, was that it's I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, that's a little bit awkward that we've gone from, Barack Obama to Donald Trump with, a tremendous amount of support from white nationalists.
Orange is the new black.
Whatever. But that the white Christian church was right there with them.
Yeah.
That were arm in arm.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah. And I looked up the exit polls. I know that our other unnamed intern is not a fan of exit polling right now.
a reminder, Christian, we cannot bleep him because this is a live stream.
So I shouldn't say his
you
name?
You cannot say his name.
This is
Why
not
does it
So-
matter if we say his name?
No, you
He's
can't.
the
It's like
unnamed intern.
he who shall not be named.
You cannot.
So here's what's kind of disheartening to me. White evangelicals went for Trump 81%, which is more than they did Mitt Romney 4 years ago, and it's more than they went for John McCain 8 years ago. But here's the other piece that's disheartening. I don't know if you remember during the primaries, I think it was in South Carolina, it showed a big surge for evangelicals supporting Trump. But when you dug into the numbers, it showed that people who actually attend church regularly
Mhm.
were not for Trump.
Right.
Right. Well, unfortunately, what the exit polling has shown from yesterday is that the people who go to church most frequently were also the most likely to be supportive of Trump.
Really?
Yeah. So those who say they go to church once a week or more, 56% for Trump. And those who attend only a few times a year were 47% for Trump, and who never go to church were only 31% for Trump.
This is making me question
Wow.
who I am
Who you are?
How about who
and
we are?
where I fit in to this landscape,
So-
because
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel like, number one, we're all residents of Illinois,
right,
and the
That's
county
where we
we
are.
live in went for Clinton, and our
which
sta-
is odd.
and our state. Yeah, normally our county is very
It's
Republican.
the most
Right.
Republican in Illinois,
Right. And our state went for Clinton, and all three of us are college educated.
right?
And that was a big rift in the electorate. Was those with a college degree went heavily for Clinton, and those without a college education went
Yeah.
heavily for Trump.
So let me read my little piece because it's gotten quite a few people cranky with me. And-
Well, the reason I brought it up is because
Yeah.
I'm guessing your audience is largely evangelicals, and if 81% of them who go to church regularly, if 81% of them voted for Trump, they're probably not going to be super happy with your post.
Here's what I said. Church, we've got some explaining to do. Last night, America voted to transition from our first African-American president to our first president in recent memory to receive the full-throated endorsement of the Ku Klux Klan. Former KKK Imperial Wizard David Duke stated clearly after the victory that Trump couldn't have won without the support of, quote, my people, which in this case would be white nationalists and white supremacists. Take a breath and recognize how bad that looks. Now consider that David Duke was joined in this effort by a significant majority of the white church in America. White Christians, white supremacists, and white nationalists pushed Donald Trump into the White House. Now think about this. The world is growing more brown. America is growing more brown. Global Christianity is growing more brown. More and more of our neighbors, those we're called by Christ to love, are brown. And yet here we stand, white Christians, having just pushed a man into office who built his campaign on pledges to wall off and otherwise restrict the movements of brown people. Yes, but we need to be safe. You're more likely to be killed by bees than by Islamic terrorists. Yes, but religious liberty is under attack. Explain to the Syrian refugee family that we aren't going to help them because we need a president who will tell us we don't have to bake cupcakes for gay people. A president who promised that if we Christians elected him, quote, store clerks will be saying Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays, believe me. Go ahead, I dare you. Yes, but transgender bathrooms. When was the last time you or anyone you know was attacked in a bathroom? Yes, but the Supreme Court. Laws live downstream from culture. Sure, stack the Supreme Court with another conservative justice or two and see modest changes in legislative interpretation. But the majority of Americans now accept self-definition in terms of sexual identity and self-determination in terms of reproductive rights with modest limitations. In other words, unless our culture changes, those laws aren't going anywhere. Focusing on courts to change culture is backwards, like occupying the trailer to change the direction of the truck. Look, I get it. Some of us feel scared of loss of rights, scared of loss of privilege. But as white American Christians, we can only lose those things because we had those things. We have had dominant majority rights and we have had dominant majority privilege. Most of the world's Christians, not to mention America's many white or non-white Christians, have never had those things. To them, our whining about lost privilege seems pitiful. Dare I say, downright unchristian. How do I share the love of Jesus with a brown-skinned neighbor if I voted to have them deported? How do I share the love of Jesus with a Syrian family if my fear prevents me from offering them help in the first place? And how do I carry the love of Jesus to any of the world's brown-skinned peoples if I've just joined the Grand Wizard of the KKK and supporting a man whose singular goal appears to be to make America great again at their expense? Church, we've got some explaining to do. So that's gotten some response.
Yeah, I saw that. What was the, and you were patiently responding to them.
I was trying. I probably spent 2.5 hours today replying to things.
What was the biggest complaint that was
Well, I mean,
levied?
it started out with, I mean, the people who read my stuff the fastest are podcast fans. And most of the podcast fans kind of know.
They know where you stand.
Yeah, they know that we're not Trump fans, that we don't think this is good for the church. So the initial responses were pretty positive, but then they started sharing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So then it was going on to, other people's Facebook feeds and getting in front of other people. And then things kind of started going downhill. And wait, I have to pull up some.
And
of
so people, it sounds like with a couple of comments that I saw, people were surprised that Phil Vischer could actually
is some
have
kind of lefty liberal
Yeah,
pinko.
yeah. And I think people do misunderstand.
Apparently doesn't care about the unborn at all.
So, okay, regarding the abortion thing, somebody's asked us a question on the
yeah.
live cast thing here about, don't you think abortion is the reason why 81% of evangelicals supported Trump? I think that was a huge factor. The fact that there was a vacancy on the Supreme Court because Scalia passed away before the election was a huge factor. But you're talking about a candidate who, as recently as last year said he was pro-choice. Right. He has no consistency on this issue whatsoever. He has no record of holding to his promises to anybody, let alone his wives. And why you would believe that he is going to fulfill a promise to put conservatives on the Supreme Court who will overturn Roe v. Wade. I don't know. And here's the other thing. Overturning Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court does not do anything to end abortion in the United States.
I think that's what people miss.
All it does is say the federal government is agnostic on the issue. It's up to the states. So,
But then all of our conservative states can make it illegal.
but then people drive half an hour to the other state. I mean, I understand.
Well,
I'm pro-life as well.
Shame on them.
I am pro-life as well. But here's my problem. Even if you believe Trump, and even if he does appoint conservative justices, that one issue is the only thing I can think of in any of his policies, in any of his character, in any of his rhetoric that is in any way consistent with biblical virtue. Everything else is stacked against this guy when it comes to measuring him against a biblical worldview. And given his inconsistency on that issue, how can you say that that is, pardon the expression, the Trump card that means we should all vote for this guy?
So Keith says, love your work, Phil, but this post is not your best. In fact, it is basically the worst bit of thought that I've ever heard or read from you. You sound like the CNN anchor who claimed that Trump's victory was due to white lash.
That would be Van Jones.
So what does he think the Trump's victory is about?
Portions of the church may have to one day answer to the good Lord for how and why they cast their vote, but to just lump all Christians into one pile and tie them to the KKK is not good, which I didn't do. What I was saying is we've given the appearance of being tied in, not the reality of being tied in. Brown people, give me a break. You're treading dangerously into over-emotional liberal thinking here, Phil. Protecting our borders equals hating brown people, according to you. What a stretch.
When I think of Phil Vischer, I think of overly emotional.
He says with a twinkle in his eye.
I voted for Trump not because of a fear of brown people, but as a vote against Hillary. Oh, and I've been in the ladies' room when men have chosen to enter with my young daughters more than once. No, they were not attacked, but I found your dismissive comment highly offensive. Just because you've never experienced something like that yourself doesn't mean that doesn't happen or is not a big deal. Heather says, you're being ridiculous and way over dramatic. I am disappointed to see this from you. We as Christians are supposed to be hopeful and have faith that God has got this.
All right, this is a good question.
So Mike says, so why do you guys think that more Christian leaders aren't saying these kinds of things?
Because the tail is wagging the dog, Mike. Really, honestly, I think if you are in a red state and you are a church leader and your congregation is filled with people who are at least 81% voting for Trump, why would you say any of these things? I remember many years ago sitting in a church with my dad, who's not a believer, and he turned to me after the sermon and said, "Why should I believe anything that pastor said?" And I said, "Well, I know the Bible pretty well, and I think what he said was good." He said, No. All these people pay this guy's salary. Why would he say anything other than what these people want to hear? I've been around the country. I've talked to a lot of pastors and in areas that are facing various cultural and political issues, and they remain silent on these things because they're worried about the backlash from their own people in their pews. So a lot of pastors are reluctant to talk about anything that is remotely political because they don't want to cause conflict. They're looking for a stable church where they can just, in their view, preach the gospel and not rock the boat. And I think what has happened this week is an indictment of the failure of discipleship of the American evangelical church. And we who are ordained pastors and leaders are responsible for an awful lot of that. And chickens are coming home to roost.
Dana says, this is the most ignorant article ever written.
Wow. Did she say
Was that it?
No, there's more.
does she equate you with Hitler or the Nazis in some way?
No, he is going to say Christians should not have voted for Trump because he was endorsed by the KKK. What stupidity. Trump did not endorse anything produced by the KKK, not their line of children's clothing, not their truck. And what about the black Christians who supported and voted for Trump? Hillary took money to fund her campaign from countries who belittle and enslave women and torture and kill homosexuals. You need to educate yourself better with the word of God before you spew such ignorance. You actually think the church should be held accountable for the election of Trump. If you truly are a Christian, then you should know that God is Alpha and Omega, the author and finisher of our faith. He's the sovereign God, and his word should not return void. He places his... I'm not going to continue.
I'm picturing that with no punctuation.
It suddenly turned
Was
into
it all caps?
a tick tract. No, it was when she thought it.
Oh.
It didn't end
Can
up
I
that
ask
way.
Guy a quick question?
Wow, for all your artistic brilliance. This is
Go ahead.
another one.
Go ahead.
Sean says, wow, for all your artistic brilliance, you clearly lack any sort of intelligence regarding rule of law and cultural violence.
What's
Oh,
cultural
wow.
violence?
I don't know.
But you clearly
Well, see, I
don't
clearly
know.
lack intelligence.
Right.
And so do you.
Cultural violence.
You put more scorn and words into debasing a candidate supported by some useless half-wit and less on people who literally want to destroy children mentally, physically, and spiritually.
I don't even know why you're paying attention to these comments.
Remember, kids, the Democrats want to destroy your children mentally, spiritually, and physically.
I made my wife a promise last night when we were on the sofa very late watching the returns that I would not tweet, post, or write anything for the next 24 hours
That was a good.
because I knew that's exactly what kind of backlash I would probably get.
Okay, so let me ask you my
Yeah.
important question. So you're saying that, and I agree with you, this large number of white evangelical Christians voted for Donald Trump, even though really nothing about what he says or what he does or who he is can be reflected as biblical, as biblical,
Well,
right? Is
or
that what
it's
you said?
Christian, in line with what I would say is Christian virtue.
So then
he says
why-
he'd give us what we want. He said he'd give us what
That
we
was what
want.
I was wondering, because I feel like he's saying, I think that America thinks I want to be wealthy. I want to be safe. I want to be this. And this man is wealthy. And so he's going to make me wealthy. He's going to make me safe because he says he's going to build a wall.
He bought our votes with the Supreme Court. Basically.
It really was a perfect
happened.
storm. You had the Supreme Court vacancy. You had the Comey FBI stuff on Hillary Clinton and her email. I mean, she's a horrible candidate as well and was incredibly weak, which made it possible for Trump to exploit this opportunity. You had the refugee crisis that people freaked out about. You had a number of things that lined up perfectly for Trump in all of this. Another one that really isn't getting a lot of press is a few weeks ago, I got a notice in the mail, I'm sure many others did, about the Obamacare rates going up by 25% in some places and 100% in others. And that hurts a lot of families in their pocketbook. And Obamacare is a very flawed and broken law that needs a lot of fixing, and people are ticked. And he stoked their fears, and he promised them the moon. And the question is going to be, number one, how much of his rhetoric from the campaign is he actually going to try to fulfill?
Right.
Is he really going to build a wall? Is he really going to round up 11 million immigrants and kick them out? Is he really going to ban Muslims? And when he doesn't do some of those things or isn't able to, how many of his supporters are going to flip out on him and, get angry because they really believe he was going to do some of these things?
What do you guys think?
How are you feeling tonight?
How do you feel about all that? Am I off the ranch?
And did you read Phil's blog? And did you agree or disagree?
Laura says most people she knows voted third party. And Jeremiah read the article. So James says, so what was the better option then? Hillary or not weighing in? Which one was the better option?
Well,
Besides
To
Trump.
who?
Besides Trump.
Well, the question is, if you
Based-
didn't vote for Hillary, this is a binary election. My husband keeps saying that.
Binary election.
One of these people is going to have to win.
mhm.
So if you did not vote for Hillary, unfortunately, you got Donald Trump.
Yeah, but not
I don't like that
necessarily.
argument. I don't like that argument because you're telling people that they have to put their name next to one of these people.
If
And-
you don't want Trump, then how are you going to stop him if you don't vote for the opposite candidate?
Look at Utah as a good example.
Look at Utah.
you had-
Everybody take a minute and look at Utah.
You had a viable third-party candidate in Evan McMullen, and if the evangelicals in Utah had gone for Evan McMullen, he would have prevented Trump or Clinton from getting those electoral votes. Likewise, if more Christians in swing states had either not voted or voted third party or write-in candidate or for Clinton, any one of those options would have denied Donald Trump from getting those electoral votes. Even if they didn't vote for Hillary, they could have voted for someone else, which would have boosted Hillary, which would have denied Trump the electoral college win. So it wasn't just about Trump or Hillary. I didn't vote for either of them. I also don't live in a swing state, but you could have done other things. What's so disheartening is 81% of evangelicals put their mark next to Trump's name. That's what's disheartening. They did not have to.
I once admired your work, but this is a shameful, disgraceful post, unworthy of a man of your intellect. It's sad.
Wow.
Well,
You may have just crashed your reputation in one fell blog post.
Well, then there are people who said, "Thank you, Phil. So good." Stacy said, "Brilliant." Sarah said, "Thank you for this." Christina said, "Very well written." Dorothy said, "Well said." William said, "Thank you, Phil."
I have a question for you guys.
Katie said, "This is such a disgraceful article."
Were you surprised listening to the podcast and supporting it that Phil would have written this blog?
Hmm?
No.
No.
Yeah, no. JT says he was shocked. Not. Matt says not at all. Andrew says not surprised. And James says, I don't believe so. Jeremiah says not surprised, really.
so yeah, I think
Dave says, this is one of my favorites. He just said this: "Read the Old Testament, Vischer."
what does that mean?
The part about Trump? I don't know.
I think you should respond by saying, "Read the New Testament, Dave." I think what our audience, obviously I can't speak for everybody in our podcast audience.
No disrespect. Many non-believing kings furthered the cause of Israel.
Yeah, that's not what you were saying, though.
Yeah.
I think our podcast audience, not everybody, but a lot of our audience represents sort of a new form of Orthodox Christianity, which is trying to be independent of political ideology and independent of the religious right in the last 40 years of alignment with conservative Republican politics. There are elements of conservative Republican politics, which is great, but there are elements which are not. And there's another large group of evangelicals who are still squarely locked into that way of thinking, but that's not really our audience. That's not who we've cultivated. And I think the future is our audience or people like our audience, and it's just going to be a bumpy road to get there.
So do you feel like that describes you guys? The way that Sky just described you, would you say?
I wouldn't be surprised if our audience has voted both ways in different elections.
Yes. Yes, I am the future. Yes, heck yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
I am the future.
The children are the future.
JT says,
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
JT says, do you mean to say that Jesus was not a Republican?
Pretty sure he wasn't. Yeah,
No.
and still
It's hard
isn't.
to
So
say.
here's, so here's what happens. You put this out for your followers who you've been talking to for the last 5 years, and they like it so much that they share it with all their friends
Yeah.
who have not been following you for the last 5 years. And then things get nutty.
They get nutty.
The
So
last
when-
guy called me a moron. Said,
when
you
you-
are a moron.
When you responded to these people,
I
Did
called
that-
them all morons.
no,
You're a
you-
moron.
No, you didn't. You
You're a
explained your
moron.
position actually.
Yeah, I did.
And how did they respond after you engaged with them?
We're not really open to reconsidering our positions on these topics in America today. Really,
Yeah,
And that's where we are.
really not
It's-
open.
Yeah.
I mean, were you guys sad? Like, honestly, I did not want to get out of bed.
Me?
Were you guys sad? Like,
my
I was
wife-
really sad.
My wife cried.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I cried.
We've been texting with our Muslim neighbors, trying to console them
Yeah.
and let them know it's all right. And
And then you'll form a perimeter around their home.
yeah,
to-
and I got a text from my dad, and he doesn't text a lot. It was actually this evening before I came over here, and all it said was, "I'm so depressed."
Mm.
And so I called him up, and he's been in this country for 45 years, more than that.
yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid growing up, he would sit me and my brother down and say to both of us, "Look, you guys have to work extra hard at school. You have to work extra hard in your studies. You have to
Mhm.
be better than other people because you're brown. And in this country, if you are brown, you have to be better than everyone else if
Mhm.
you're going to get a shot at anything." And he would share stories with us about his experience coming here as an immigrant and the prejudice that he faced and other things. And the country has changed a lot in 45 years. So when Trump got elected, and my dad believed that one of the best presidents we ever had was Richard Nixon. Like, he is Mr. Republican.
Well,
He loved Ronald Reagan. He's conservative in most of his views, and he was devastated that Trump got elected. And now he's in his 70s, and he's thinking,
my sister
I need to get out of here again.
teaches college students at LaGuardia Community College in New York City, and she said this morning she came in and her class is almost entirely immigrants, and she just felt so sad looking out at all of these various hued faces on the morning after. It just feels like America got drunk and went home with the wrong guy. And
what's scary,
woke
though,
up
is
and-
America was sober.
So let me ask you this.
That's what
I'm
my
trying
friends
to
are doing.
identify what this sadness is that I'm feeling, because I
Yeah.
don't think our country's going to go off the rails. I don't
No,
think.
probably not.
But what I'm truly sad about is that we as America said we like this guy and we want him to be in the. I mean,
Well,
I
many
can't-
people say, no, I don't like him, but like the mega church pastor in Dallas, Jeffries.
Yeah, the First
Yeah.
Baptist
Yeah, he
Dallas.
said he's not a Christian. He's not a good guy. He's not any of that. He's a SOB, but he's our SOB and he can protect us. Which, I mean, if that's not Israel asking for a king instead of
Mhm.
God,
Right.
I don't know what is. Because God can't protect us from the scary brown people that are coming from all parts of the earth to take our stuff.
And there were a lot of people who were not saying, "I like this guy." They're saying, "I really don't like her.
Yeah.
And I don't like the system. I don't like Washington. I don't like the elites."
Yeah.
But as I've been reflecting on this today and looking back on the campaign, I think that Trump won this election. This is going to sound ridiculous, but let me
Uh-oh.
explain.
Go for
I
it.
think he won this election with those stupid hats.
Okay.
Well, the only reason he
You wanna
got the
explain?
hat is because he was campaigning outside, and there were those pictures of him
Okay.
getting his hair weave
Yeah.
caught in the wind, and he needed a hat.
Okay, but let me explain.
That's
Let me explain. Those hats, the "Make America Great Again" hat,
yeah.
it represents what Trump did so well. I don't want to say brilliantly because I'm not sure it was that thought out.
Yeah.
And what
shrewdly? How about
what
shrewdly?
the Clinton campaign did so poorly.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. Number one, the whole phrase "Make America Great Again" really taps into this feeling of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right, which is almost a Rorschach test. That's an ink blot test where you can project whatever you want into that statement.
Right.
Right. So you can win a ton of people with.
What does it mean to you?
What does it mean to you?
1974, when I was in 4th grade, and the cutest little girl just loved me, and my dad had a job.
Right. Secondly, the very nature of that dumb baseball hat is populist. Right, it's anti-elite,
Right.
which is
It's a guy in a $1,000 suit wearing a dumb baseball
right,
hat.
but it's also kind of a redneck, good old boy baseball hat, John Deere working whatever kind of thing, and it appealed to that disenfranchised group of Americans who became his base of support. Third, that silly
How many
little
points do you have
just
on the
four,
hat?
just four,
4 points on the hat.
4 points
Is
on the
this
hat.
from tomorrow's devotional?
No.
Okay.
Third, and someone else made this point on one of the newscasts I was watching, that really significant elections or changed elections happen when a candidate leverages a new form of media. So
Yeah.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt figures out radio and uses it. Kennedy uses television. Barack Obama used the web, used the internet really effectively. And what Trump has done better than anyone else is figure out social media.
Tweet.
He tweeted his way into people's
Into
lives.
our hearts.
And
he
he
tweeted
spent-
his way into all of our
He
hearts.
spent half as much money per vote as Clinton. But "Make America Great Again" it's a tweetable phrase. And that's the final point, the fourth one, which is, can you think of a single policy or idea or value from the Clinton campaign that is that memorable? Anything she said or did regularly that you go, oh, that's what she's all about.
Well, Stronger Together is what she's all about.
Yeah,
Basket of deplorables.
but Trump had "Make America Great Again," "Build the Wall,"
lock her
lock
up.
her up. He had, and those weren't just
Drain
silly
the swamp.
phrases. Drain the swamp. They
Punch him in the face.
they represented actual policies.
Yeah.
As you can agree or disagree with them, but they were
Yeah.
memorable, and he captured the rhetoric and the ability to communicate to masses of people in social media immediately. I mean, he had Crooked Hillary, and he had
Yeah.
Little Marco, and all that craziness.
So
and
he's
it
the king
worked.
of branding.
He is the king of branding, and what the Clinton campaign never did was communicate effectively or strong. Actually, the most memorable phrase she had the whole
Basket of
election
deplorables.
was "basket of deplorables,"
Yeah, I know.
and it was obviously it backfired.
I
on her.
just cannot believe,
I hate
speaking
it
of
when my
branding,
basket of deplorables backfires on me.
that I have to call him
Mess.
Mr.
No, you don't.
President
you
Trump.
Don't. You don't have to.
President
You
Trump.
don't have to.
Think about
You
the
don't have
rest
to.
of his life. He will be known as President Trump.
He can still be the Donald.
Oh,
He can still be the
How
Donald.
about the president?
Okay. Do you know my first thought when it was all done and I was trying to decompress? My first thought was, I have to build a false room in my house to hide Rosie O'Donnell.
I thought you were going to say to hide Mexicans.
There's another one for that. I have one for Rosie O'Donnell and one for a whole Mexican family.
and well, your neighbors. You need to build one for your neighbors.
Yeah, well, what amazes me is this is the first time in our lives, and maybe in American history, I don't know, where somebody has won the presidency without getting a single major newspaper endorsement. Not a single.
Las Vegas from his friend Sheldon
Yeah, that was a tabloid.
and the
That's not a
KKK
major
newspaper.
And not a single former president from his own party
Right.
endorsed him
Right.
or voted for him. Not a single foreign policy expert from his own party
Yeah.
endorsed him.
I know.
I mean,
This is the end of Western
it is
civilization.
shocking how even it's mind-boggling.
Okay, what do the people think? What do our friends? What are they saying?
We have a lot of people asking if we can get to the other questions, not just politics.
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
So,
Okay, other
is
questions?
that okay?
How can you think about anything else other than?
Of course we
Okay.
can.
All right, let's hear
Okay,
it.
so we'll
Okay.
go to Mariana asked this one on Patreon. She wasn't able to attend. So just something a little bit more lighthearted. What's on your music playlist recently? So,
It's the end of the world as we know it. New music. I've got the Brilliance. I'm listening to Regina Spektor, who I really like. I've gotten into her some. I am listening to there's new Switchfoot out. There's what else is new? There's some new.
they just released a live album too.
Oh,
Switchfoot.
I better
It
go
was,
get
it was from the
Okay,
concert I went to.
I'd say those are probably the big ones right now.
Okay.
What about you, Christian?
Oh, well, mine aren't going
Go
to be
Cubs,
very
go.
Mine aren't going to be very helpful, but it is Go Cubs Go All the Way by Eddie Vedder. And We Don't Suck Anymore. And
That's a song.
Yes, you haven't seen that video?
No.
Oh my gosh, Google We Don't Suck Anymore. It's like fantastic like parody. Anyway, and Need to Breathe.
Oh, yeah.
I got nothing new because I've been listening to like Pandora.
David Axelrod.
No, well, actually, I
and-
do listen to his
Yeah.
podcast, but I usually listen to the streaming radio stuff, and it's been a lot of jazz lately. Dave Brubeck and those kinds of
Well, I
things.
like
Oh, yeah.
him.
I like Dave Brubeck
Yeah.
too.
Sky, are you familiar with Mako Fujimura's new book, Silence and the Beauty? It's an analysis of Endo's book,
Oh,
Silence.
yeah.
Yes, I am aware of it. I have not read it, and I look forward to reading it because I love the book Silence, and I'm a fan of Mako Fujimura. So, yes.
Why didn't you ask me that question? Don't you think I'm smart?
They may have read the comments on your blog
Right.
post today.
They may have written some of the comments.
Moron.
So then Sam goes and asks, so I'm looking for a college that has a quality film, a Christian film program that doesn't have an isolationist mindset or whatever you call the mindset behind the movies like God's Not Dead. Any suggestions?
It doesn't have a God's Not Dead mindset.
Yeah. He's looking into Palm Beach Atlantic University in South Florida because it's close to where he lives,
Oh,
or he or she.
well,
lives,
another
yeah.
thing would be to just go for a liberal arts education at a decent Christian college, and then go to Full Sail or Ringling or Savannah School of Design.
Asbury has
Or-
a film school.
Yeah, a number.
Tribeca
do-
Flashpoint is here.
You'll get a better film education from a film
school.
specializing film school. I mean, there are numerous. Biola has a nice film program.
I
Regent
was gonna
and
go there.
Liberty are both building decent film programs. It kind of depends on how much you want your film studies integrated with your undergrad college experience, or do you want to consider them separately? I wouldn't necessarily, depending on what else you're wanting to study, because you should study more than film. And even in Hollywood, they will say, if you're going to write, especially not just produce, having a liberal arts background is more valuable than having a film major, because you need to know about the world. So, and you can pick up film studies quite easily at a lot of places, including YouTube.
So then Jeremiah, he last time was talking about a Christian production company, thinking about starting one up, and he's wondering if Probably Christian would be a good company name.
Probably Christian.
He's thinking the slogan would be basically agnostic Christians.
What? You're sending some mixed signals there.
You might want to look for a name where the URL is available.
Yeah, start with the URL, although you just put productions or studios on the end and you can make things work.
It depends on who your audience is.
Yeah, both of those statements might be off-putting to very conservative Christians. They don't want a film from someone who's probably Christian. They want definitely Christian. And if you are trying to reach a much broader audience, they'll be put off by the fact that it has Christian in it. So you may have landed upon a name that is neither here nor there, and therefore the market will spit you out of its mouth. Thank you.
Well,
I second
I
that.
might have mixed
No
metaphors.
more.
I
I'm not
had to
sure.
be very careful about naming any of my things
Yes,
Christian.
because you're so Christian.
Right.
She is so. That should be your TV series. So Christian.
how about just probably Christian? What happened?
How about mostly
Probably
Christian?
Christian.
Christian. Who went to the Cubs game today? Probably Christian. That'll be the catchphrase.
Laura, this is kind of going back to the election thing, so just
Uh-oh.
am I allowed to be furious at my church right now for enabling this insanity? Because I am.
Your local church or the church Big C church? What did your church play the Mike Pence video that was sent out to churches to play last Sunday?
Stop it.
She says Big C.
Big C. Oh,
Okay.
Big
The
C.
general church.
I don't think furiousness is beneficial to you or the church with a big C.
But I feel your pain.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated, and
I'm heartbroken.
I think a lot of people with the blog post I wrote today took it that I was saying, "Oh, if you voted for Donald Trump, you're a racist." And if you just, I may need to go back and just make it more clear. No, but we've given the ability for our neighbors to come to that conclusion. Even if we're not, we've given them that ability to come to that conclusion, and that impacts the gospel. And for
Right.
most people, even people around the world, we had NT Wright on, and it's like, what's going on over there? When you talk to other people around the world, it's like, are you guys losing your minds? Is it no, it's all about the Supreme Court. You don't understand how important this is. God can't save the babies unless we take over the Supreme Court. And I just need to calm down and say, God is on his throne. He can do what he can do. But we're associating ourselves with some genuine ugliness in our culture that is being given a voice and the opportunity to come to the forefront. It's not necessarily, I don't even think that Donald Trump believes this stuff, but he likes the applause of the people that do. And he doesn't want to tell anyone to go away. And so that just the number of white nationalists, white supremacists that are completely jazzed right now.
There was a march in North Carolina of KKK members across a bridge holding signs supporting Trump in celebration after he won last night. So, I mean, those kinds of things are kind of creepy when you think about it.
Yeah. And we probably shouldn't have gone there and marched with them as the church. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
because we're also in favor of Trump.
I mean, I
Sure.
totally agree with what you're saying, Phil. The danger is, though, you could say the same thing the other way. If the church was completely in the camp of the Democratic Party, you'd say, well, do we really want to be associated with some of these things? Right. But this election and this candidate is particularly egregious.
Yeah.
When you look at
But
modern
a lot
history.
of people don't think so. Someone just posted this piece to my Facebook page. It was posted on Christianity Today. Christianity Today.
How timely.
Written by Kate Shellnut.
Shellnut?
Kate Shellnut.
Right. Nuts have shells.
That's how it's spelled.
Shellnut.
Shellnut. Not shall not. Shell nut.
Oh, now I get it.
She says, I want to introduce you to some other friends of mine, and right now these friends feel really afraid. See, the people who are keeping our Jesus movement going, the ones who are keeping our churches from dwindling and dying out in America, are black and brown, not us white folk. And my black and brown and Asian and Middle Eastern Jesus following friends feel really scared right now. They heard talk of a wall. In my town, they heard people chanting it last night. My brown friends heard talk of the deportation of immigrants and are scared to drive to the grocery store in case their family gets torn apart. They woke up this morning in fear, praying for protection. They saw a bunch of us white folk voted for the guy who wanted to build walls and deport people, and they feel like that was us saying, we don't care about you. My black Jesus following friends are worried that the criminal justice reform they've been pushing for that would make our country safer for everyone is going to be halted. They're worried that their white folk friends voted in a guy thoroughly endorsed by the KKK. They've seen the lynching t-shirt jokes and they don't find those funny. They're scared by the t-shirt I saw the other day at a Trump rally was tree rope journalist, assembly required.
I saw a bumper sticker here in Wheaton on a pickup truck the other day. It was half in English and half in Arabic. And the English part said, stay 100 feet away or you will be shot.
Oh, that's nice.
Think about that.
They're scared for their lives, but they're also hurt and angry at the white evangelicals whose vote showed those things don't matter to them. And she goes on, my Asian American, Middle Eastern, Jesus following friends woke up today worried that someone would think they're a terrorist. Many of my female friends woke up feeling like locker room talk and sexual assault has just been given a free pass. They feel like you cared more about the Supreme Court or your economic models than you did about their respect and dignity and safety.
This is why I'm heartbroken.
Yeah.
He sums it up.
So go listen, learn, recognize there is real hurt and real anger because of you. Then get busy. Go pray for the protection of your local mosque. Go write them a letter and tell them you love them. Go teach ESL classes. Go sign up to host a refugee family. Go join a Black Lives Matter protest. Start going to a black church. You're going to really have to do something this time to prove yourself. If you still don't get it, if you can't see what the fuss is all about, then Christ have mercy.
Yes.
That's a pretty good summary.
Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody. It's 9:18. We're going to wrap it up. We'll try to do this every month. We missed last month because we just got too busy.
Busy travel season.
We were traveling. Are you traveling? I'm traveling this week. I'm in Indianapolis.
I have no travel until after Thanksgiving. I'm going to India, and I may not come back. They may not let me back.
Can you try to look as American as possible before you try to come back?
Yeah, I gotta lose some weight and shave the beard.
Don't get any more tan.
Mm.
Stay out of the sun. Wear a Cubs hat.
You got to shave all this.
Yeah. Oh dear.
But
All right.
just wear a Make America Great Again hat, and you should be fine.
It's kind of scary sending Sky abroad. He's a little too hairy and a little too odd, and they might not let him back in the country. That'd be sad, because he's my favorite quasi-ethnically diverse theologian. I
Right
like
with
to take him with me to Okobojan when we can sit on the dock and talk about the melting pot that's America and the church. And hopefully the church is more important than America in our minds. Hey, make the church great again. See you
Bye, guys.
Bye,
next
everybody.
month, you live streaming buddies.
The Phil Fisher Podcast is produced by Phil Fisher Enterprises and recorded live at Jellyfish Lab Studios. This episode was edited by Jason Rugg and was fact-checked by absolutely no one. For more information, go to philfisher.com.